Make no mistake about it, my friends, the Detroit Red Wings have been one of the positive stories in this year's NHL season. Yes, they have lost 2 in a row at the time of recording this audio, including a loss to one of the best teams in the league in the Tampa Bay Lightning. But the Red Wings are currently in a playoff spot, and if they hold on to it, it'll be the first time they've made the dance in a decade. With all this said, I wanted to head over to the Detroit Red Wings subreddit and read about a post that talks about how everything came this way, and how Detroit's previous management in Ken Holland may have stalled this team's rebuild for much longer than had anticipated. Now, this post was made on the Detroit Red Wings sub last night, but it's actually not the post that I thought was good enough to talk about in this video. We'll go out there and read it just so you can get an idea as to what we're alluding to, but Chirping Saluccio went out there and said this yesterday: the reason for the stalled rebuild. In my opinion, the Red Wings are paying for the sins of the past. The management tried to expedite the rebuild, so they signed guys like Kopp and Sherratt, rather than suck for another year or two and try to collect more elite talent. Instead, we are stuck with the Frankenstein team of young players, overpaid veterans, and Larkin and DeBrincat. I have no idea how you fix this without major center help. Seems like we need to pick a direction. Maximize the Larkin timeline or focus on the young guys. You can't do both. Now, I don't agree with this post. It got some conversation going, though. Signing Kopp and Sherratt has stalled the rebuild? What the hell am I reading? But what I did want to reply to was this comment made by Suspicious Walrus 682 that talks about probably the biggest truth in the Red Wings and their timeline. Ken Holland's decisions set the Detroit Red Wings back years. In 2015, he drafts Evgeny Svechnikov. Joel Eriksson was taken a pick later. In 2016, he drafts Dennis Chalowski. Tage Thompson was drafted a little bit after that too. In 2017, he drafted Michael Rasmussen over guys like Marty Necas, Nick Suzuki, and Robert Thomas, who were all available and picked later. And in 2018, the biggest blunder of them all, Ken Holland picks Filip Zadina instead of Quinn Hughes. That's not even including stupid contracts, like the one he gave to Abdelkader or for Franz Nielsen. The Red Wings would be in a totally different spot if they had just hit on 1 or 2 of the drafts that were listed above. And so with that said, let's dive into these draft picks and let's dive into these drafting decisions. Because if you wanted to say you build through the draft, you build your team, you get your prospects, you get your youth, you get your studs through the draft, this is absolutely the area where Kenny Holland and the Detroit Red Wings should have been able to build the next generation of wings. Evgeny Svechnikov was drafted in 2015. This was the 19th overall pick, and at the time, a lot of folks thought that, yeah, he was going to be a really good scorer because he was dominant in the QMJHL, and his younger brother Andre became a stud for the Carolina Hurricanes. But no, Evgeny Svechnikov was never a full-time Red Wing for anything more than 21 games in a year, and he was never really all too productive in the AHL either. Give it some years in Winnipeg and San Jose, and now he's a full-time KHL guy, and he's not even producing all too much over there too. 2015 was a pretty good draft in terms of the overall caliber of talent, but you take a look at who was taken after Svechnikov and it gets pretty embarrassing for Red Wings fans. Joel Eriksson was the immediate pick after Svechnikov. Brock Besser, Travis Konechny, these guys were also available after the fact. Then if you go into the second round and beyond, you'll see some other guys. You have Sebastian Aho, Rupe Hintz, some fantastic Finns that were also available. Maybe it wouldn't have been realistic to take a guy like Rupe Hintz, for example, in the first round. Now we can say that in hindsight, but back at that time frame, there were some other names that were available and pretty good too, that panned out a lot better than Evgeny Svechnikov. Take a look at Dennis Cholowski in 2016. He was the 20th overall pick by the Detroit Red Wings. Again, was supposed to be a middle to top pair defenseman and a guy who, playing out of the WHL, had some tremendous potential. He ended up becoming a staple, splitting years between the Red Wings and the Griffins, back and forth and back and forth. And heck, he's doing the same thing nowadays too, with the New Jersey Devils and the Utica Comets. Take a look at some of the names taken immediately after Dennis Cholowski in the 20th overall spot. Yes, there were a few duds. German Rupsov didn't become anything, nor did Riley Tufte. But Tage Thompson, the big guy who was unleashing one-timers like crazy, was taken a few picks after. Go into the second round, and you have Jordan Kyrou, and hell, Alex DeBrincat. Now, I'll give the benefit of the doubt for Alex DeBrincat. This guy was 5'7" at the draft. There wasn't any reason for anybody to believe that he was going to be a first-round caliber guy, but he's still a pretty good player. For what it's worth, the Detroit Red Wings did get Filip Hronek in the second round of the 2016 draft, so maybe it wasn't all too bad. But missing out on a guy like Tage Thompson, who inevitably became a 90.47-goal guy in the NHL, that's a pretty big miss, if I do say so myself. Take a look at 2017. Michael Rasmussen. Now, this was a pretty big one, because the Red Wings had a top 10 pick. Rasmussen was taken 9th overall. Immediately after him, though, you have some really strong forwards. Owen Tippett is a goal-scoring physical force on the wing. Gabe Vilardi has really come into his own the past few years in Winnipeg. Marty Necas is a superstar. He is so good, and it took him a while to find his game, but at the end of Carolina and in Colorado, we really started to see the value that Necas can provide. And then, 13th overall, you have Nick Suzuki, the current captain of the Montreal Canadiens and an underrated pickup for Team Canada at the Olympic Games. Yes, there was a little bit of a dud period of D-men taken in this 2017 draft. Ignore the first guy. Let's go over on Eric Bronstrom, Juuso Välimäki, Timothy Liljegren, or Hovakanainen. But then you have guys that are pretty noteworthy. Robert Thomas, Josh Norris, scrolling down here, Eeli Tolvanen. And then Jason Robertson in the second round. Again, this guy was taken one pick after the Detroit Red Wings selected Gustav Lindstrom. So there is another missed opportunity for Kenny Holland and the Red Wings. Now, for what it's worth, every NHL team passed on Jason Robertson at least once. He was drafted out of Kingston, and even though he had some really good numbers, for whatever reason, there were issues as to whether or not his game would fully translate. I guess now we're seeing that it has, since he is on pace for 98 points. But at the end of the day, this is another one of these missed opportunities. Let's talk about the biggest sin of all, though. Filip Zadina, taken 6th overall by the Detroit Red Wings and Ken Holland back in 2018. Now, this was the season that I personally started making YouTube videos on hockey news and prospects, so I remember this very well. Zadina was supposed to go 3rd overall, and the fact that he didn't was more a testament to Montreal and Arizona reaching for centers, more so than Zadina not being a guy worthy of going near the top. The fact is, the Red Wings went with the guy that I think a lot of folks thought was a steal at 6th overall. But only with hindsight can we now see that the guy taken immediately after, Quinn Hughes, is a Norris-caliber defenseman. And even some of the other guys taken after too. Evan Bouchard, Noah Dobson, Joel Farabee. These all would have been much more effective players at 6th overall than what Filip Zadina ended up becoming for the Detroit Red Wings. He was a disappointment, and now he is in Davos, getting a point per game in his season this year, which is good. But this guy was supposed to be a 40-goal NHL scorer. He didn't get 40 goals in the NHL, period, in multiple seasons worth of games. Oh, actually, he got 41. Never mind. Yes, my bad. He was a 41-goal scorer in the league, although he was supposed to be able to do that in one season, according to the projection of how good he was going to be. But that said, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Ken Holland's draft decisions and how they set the Red Wings back years? Svechnikov, Cholo, Raz, and Philip Zadina. How do you feel about all these drafts and the history behind them? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.